Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers wearing a ballistic vest in public, use of force policy, and police surveillance, and is brought to us by Orlando's Voice Transparency's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. On January 17, 2020, the Uber driver and First Amendment auditor known as Orlando's Voice Transparency, who I will refer to as OVT, gave a friend a ride to his siblings' gated apartment complex. OVT was wearing a Visum strike-face ballistic vest with a handcuff case attached to his waist and carrying a concealed weapon. As they arrived at the complex, OVT's friend asked for a cigarette, and OVT agreed to get out and smoke with them. OVT's friend noted that the apartment complex is a tobacco-free community, and they would have to walk out to the public sidewalk to smoke. The two then walked about 10 to 15 feet to the public sidewalk and began to chit-chat while they smoked. Moments later, a sheriff's SUV slowly drives by OVT and his friend and makes a sudden U-turn to park across the street. After being watched for a few minutes, OVT and his friend decide to go back into the complex, where they are contacted by Sergeant Jeff Mayer of the Orange County Sheriff's Office in Orange County, Florida.
Just so you know, I am recording.
Good, so am I.
Okay.
Wearing a ballistic vest with no markings walking around the public.
Is it illegal to wear ballistic vest?
Do you have any ID on you?
Is it illegal to wear ballistic vest?
Okay, signal 44. He's not compliant. I'm going to put you on the ground at gunpoint if you don't comply. That's what I'm telling you.
So you're gonna violate my civil rights?
You're armed wearing a ballistic vest walking around public.
Is that illegal?
In most states, it is legal to both purchase and wear a ballistic vest, unless you have been convicted of a felony. 18 U.S. Code 931 prohibits the purchase, ownership, or possession of body armor by violent felons, and most states have legislated similar laws. Although it is not illegal to possess or wear a bulletproof vest, it may still be considered suspicious activity by a court. In the 1989 Supreme Court case of United States v. Socolow, the court acknowledged that an officer may detain an individual to resolve ambiguity regarding suspicious yet lawful or innocent conduct, stating, "The relevant inquiry is not whether particular conduct is innocent or guilty, but the degree of suspicion that attaches to particular types of non-criminal acts." The Socolow ruling was cited in a similar 2019 case involving a bulletproof vest in Florida's 5th District Court. In the case of Florida versus Willis, the court noted that no Florida case had ever addressed the degree of suspicion associated with a bulletproof vest, but cited the 1997 New York case of People versus Carvey, stating that the act of wearing a bulletproof vest suggests more than the presence of a deadly weapon. It demonstrates its owner's readiness and willingness to use a deadly weapon. The court went on to characterize ballistic vests as articles of clothing that uniquely evidence an individual's preparation to engage in gun battle, and suggest that there is an inherent linkage between a vest and the possession of a firearm. Given that Sergeant Mayer observed OVT wearing a ballistic vest, handcuff case, and concealed weapon, a court may find that the sergeant had reasonable suspicion to detain and identify OVT, but courts consider the legitimacy of reasonable suspicion on a case-by-case basis, and it is difficult to speculate on whether or not OVT's detention would be considered valid.
Sir,
Is that illegal?
that ancestor is 60. He's still not compliant.
What's going on, guys? Save this onto the live stream on YouTube. I got Orange County sheriffs again on me, harassing me. He was across the street just observing me, doing nothing, standing on public property. I'm here with a friend at his property, and he's claiming that me having a vest and being armed, which I informed him I'm armed, that he's gonna put me at gunpoint and put me down.
I'm going to inform you that, sir, you might be able to back away because if he reaches for that weapon.
I'm not gonna reach for it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna reach for it. And just so you know exactly where it is, it's on my right hip.
I'm well aware.
Okay. So this is what I was telling you that I do. If people obeying the law makes you scared, makes you paranoid, you shouldn't be a cop. Because what you are is you're a danger to the public.
Sergeant Mayer draws his service weapon and orders OVT to get on the ground. OVT calmly complies with the sergeant's commands, and the two wait for backup to arrive. Subsection Q of Chapter 8.1.6 of the Orange County Sheriff's Office's General Orders states that members of the agency are not authorized to draw or display a firearm unless there is a fear for their own personal safety or the safety of others, or use a firearm to arrest or prevent the flight of a person who has committed a misdemeanor or traffic violation. OVT has not made any vulgar remarks or threatening gestures towards Sergeant Mayer, and at this point in the interaction, the only crime that Sergeant Mayer could reasonably charge OVT with is Florida Statute 316.072, which states that it is misdemeanor for any person to willfully fail or refuse to comply with any lawful order or direction of any law enforcement officer. Given that OVT never posed a threat to Sergeant Mayer, and he was only articulably suspected of having committed a misdemeanor, it appears as though the sergeant's actions violated the Orange County Sheriff's Office use of force policy. Backup deputies eventually arrive on the scene, and after securing OVT and removing his handcuffs, vest, and firearm, Sergeant Mayer returns to his patrol car and places a call to an intelligence unit.
He's definitely a First Amendment auditor because he's got some lawsuit paperwork in the car from the sheriff's office. So he's obviously won some money.
The documents that Sergeant Mayer is referring to are from a previous encounter between OVT and the Orange County Sheriff's Office, which resulted in a $45,000 settlement. You can find the full video of that interaction on OVT's channel. Government entities are entitled to any information about citizens that is stored in certain government databases or otherwise available to the public. Intelligence units may also conduct public surveillance or seek warrants for more intrusive forms of information gathering, such as wiretapping. Sergeant Mayer made serious accusations to the intelligence unit and recommended that OVT should be tracked with little evidence to suggest that he was part of any criminal operation or affiliated with any legitimate extremist group. Surveying citizens simply because they understand and exercise their rights is a waste of valuable resources, and equating First Amendment activism to the extremist ideologies of domestic terrorists is an insult to the foundational tenets of the American justice system.
My thing is he's walking around like this saying, I have the right to do so. And a reasonable person is not going to walk around looking like that. So I took some pictures of him, of his handgun, of his car, of the badge, of the vest, and I'm going to do an incident report on him. But I wanted you guys to be aware because I think he needs to be tracked. At least you guys should put him on his radar.
After making sure that OVT didn't have any warrants, the Orange County Sheriff's deputies uncuffed OVT and returned his belongings. Sergeant Mayer filed an incident report, gave OVT his card, and eventually left the scene without incident. OVT told me that he does not know if he will pursue legal action against Sergeant Mayer or the department. Overall, Sergeant Mayer and the Orange County Sheriff's deputies get a C, because although he may have been within his authority to stop and investigate OVT, Sergeant Mayer drew his service weapon in retaliation, treated OVT as a threat with no justifying evidence, and needlessly ensured that OVT would be tracked by some kind of intelligence unit. Officers are beginning to associate an individual's awareness of constitutional rights with a radicalized movement of uneducated civilians who maliciously provoke the police in an effort to gain a social media following or secure a civil suit. While some swaths of the constitutional activism community could certainly be categorized as radical, it is imperative for both police officers and activists to understand that reasonable people make up the majority of constitutionally aware citizens and law enforcement officials alike. And the nationally recognized debate about police misconduct is not as polarized as the syndicated media and the isolated incidents circulating social media would have you believe. There is common ground to be found on the landscape of police misconduct. And while it is clear that officers should be held to a higher degree of accountability, the constitutional activism community must also charge itself with building a more formidable reputation with the public. OVT gets an A-, because although he probably could have invoked his right to remain silent more often, he did a great job of engaging in a productive dialogue with the officers while remaining calm and collected, and exerted his rights as much as possible without creating a physical altercation. Knowing when to sacrifice your immediate liberties in an effort to acquire justice later in the courtroom is a key element of interacting with the police, and OVT's patience and compliance will likely pay off in the future, and already has in the past. The deputies made the point that wearing body armor in in this day and age is suspicious because of the violence taking place all over the nation. But by that logic, if America is such a dangerous place, wouldn't it make sense to wear a ballistic vest in public? While there is some merit to the notion that Sergeant Mayer could have investigated OVT for impersonating an officer, it is difficult to justify Sergeant Mayer's actions against his suspicions. The sergeant's use of force was completely unnecessary, and OVT should be commended for his conduct throughout this encounter. There are many more elements to this encounter that I was unable to include in this episode. I highly recommend you check Orlando's Voice Transparency's channel for all of the details regarding this interaction. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to cover in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more police interaction content.